Hello everyone, this is Fi. In a previous video, we talked about when we should open attack and when we should not attack. In this video, we are going to talk about when we should not open attack but attack later after playing some cards. Let's take a look at a very simple example here. Now it's turn 2, we have a mentor on board. Our hand have one card we can play, which is Fleet Feather Tracker. Should we open attack here, or should we play the tracker then attack? If we attack with Mentor first, we are guaranteed to get 1 damage on our opponent's Nexus. If we play the tracker, we will take a risk that our opponent plays something on his side that can block us, so we may not be able to take that 1 damage. Right? But so think deeper in this case. Because it's turn 2 and on turn 1 our opponent does not play anything. So if he can play something on turn 2, it's very likely it's some creature with 2 mana. And most of the creatures with 2 mana does not have like more than 2 health. It's usually 2 or just 1. And it's not likely a 1 mana creature as well, because our opponent didn't do anything. So in this case, because we have the tracker and tracker has challenger, we can basically guarantee to trade our tracker with whatever our opponent plays, and then our mentor will still get through this 1 damage. With some very corner cases, like if our opponent play a creature that brings 2 creatures on board, but that's a very corner case and only have a very little chance to happen. So in this specific case, I think the more optimal play is to play the tracker, then see what our opponent does after that. And that should give us the best chance to take most damage on our opponent's Nexus. Okay, so let's think about if that's not what we have in hand. What if we have a Conservator on board in our hand instead? Do we still want to hold and play that then attack? Or should we just open attack in this case instead? For basically the same reason, like our opponent may play something with 2 HPs on board on turn 2. So, and if he does that, we are basically unable to attack at all without making some unfavorable trade during the combat. So if this is the creature we have in hand, I will very likely to just open attack and then play this card. It seems to be a very easy case that we only have 1 card we can play and it's only on turn 2, but after we talk about all these possibilities, it's actually not an easy decision to make. So let's take another look at another example here. Now it's on turn 4, and we have a 2/3 on board. Our opponent has a 2/2 on board. Should we open attack here? And we have 1 guard first blade in our hand. We can play this turn. By open attack, we basically guarantee 2 damage for our opponent's Nexus. By playing the first blade, our opponent may have something to block it, especially consider that our opponent has Smiths on board, which means if he plays an Eyelight, then it will be buffed with +1/+1, which is more likely being able to trade with our first blade. So should we play first blade, then attack, or should we open attack here? Let's take a second to think about this. So in this specific case, I think the more optimal play is to play first blade, then attack. Why is that? Because first blade actually take advantage of the attack turn, because he has an attack effect. If we does not attack with it this turn, it will only be a 4 mana 2/2 for the next 2 turns, which is not very good in this case. So we are basically saying, okay, we may want to give up that 2 damage in exchange for a better body on our first play this turn. Even if we have to trade with our opponent, that's fine, we can take that. So this is another example of when open attack may not be the most optimal play. And yeah, this is just like another example of just one card we can play and we have just one card on board. Things will only get more complicated as more cards in our hand and we have more mana to spend. Look at this board. Now it's turn 5. We have 8 mana total. And we are actually having a pretty good board. We have a Z, we have a green blade duel. If we open attack, we can almost guarantee 9 attack to our opponent's Nexus. If he blocks, we can at least take 6. And because our Z on the board is already attacked for once, we can see the icons there. So it's basically guaranteed our Z will level up as well if we just open attack. Okay. If we decide to not open attack, let's see what options we have. We can play the Guardian, which is not so optimal because the play effect won't be triggered because we have nothing bad this turn. Or we can choose to play 2 creatures, the Prodigy and the Keeper of Musks. It's just 5 mana in total. And by playing those, our Green Blade Duel will also be buffed with 4 attack. And our Keeper of Musks will buff everything else as well with +1/+0. So we will have a 4 attack Z, 5 attack Green Blade Duel, and a 3 attack Prodigy. But our opponent may play something bigger than that, especially considering our opponent has 6 mana this turn. But because we also have 3 mana left to play our Twin Disciplines, it's probably still very favorable to us, because even our opponent has let's say 5 or 6 health unit on his side, we can just use the Twin Disciplines to trade with that unit, right? So in this case, considering all the cards we have in hand, I think the more optimal play is to play the 2 creatures, then attack with everything. And if our opponent has a bigger creature to block, we will just use Twin Disciplines to trade with it. Okay, now let's consider another situation. What if we don't have the Twin Discipline? What do we do here? I think this changed things dramatically. Because if our opponent now has a bigger creature, we'll just basically made a very unfavorable trade. We have to do it. Or we can just attack with our Green Blade Duel only and sacrificing the chance of level up our Z. So if we don't have the Twin Discipline, I think the most optimal play is actually to open attack here. And this is just to show how things can change even we just have 1 card different in our hand. And I think this kind of decision actually comes up very often. A lot of times people just don't notice that. And the consequence, the actual result of these decisions can be dramatically different. And let's take a look at what actually happens. So this is what actually happens in that game specifically. Because of the card I have in hand, I decide to play the 2 creatures, then attack with everything. And our opponent do have a big creature, which is a Garen. And he used that to play to block our Z. Then we buff the Z with the Twin Discipline. And now look at the board. We are dealing 12 damage to our opponent, and we are killing everything on his side. Comparing to we can deal at most 6 damage to our opponent and just kill the 2-1. This is a huge difference just because we decide to not open attack in this turn. So before I end this video, I want to talk about one small tip about Katarina. So Katarina is a very interesting card with a very special level up situation, where she has quick attack and her level up condition is when I have strike, then recall me. Look at this current board. Let's only look at Katarina here. So Katarina is attacking and being blocked by a 5/4 wall. What do you think will happen here? Take a second to think about it. Okay, what will happen is Katarina will deal 3 damage to the wolf, then level up, then recall herself and return to our opponent's hand directly. Our wolf won't deal any damage to her, and it will take 3 damage. This actually surprised me when I play this game, and this actually makes me think Katarina is much more stronger than I originally thought, because it's basically impossible for her to die at all in any combat. That's everything I have for today. All of these are only my personal thought. If you have different opinions, I would really like to hear them, so feel free to leave any comments about this video, and I will see you next time.